Шановні колеги,
Esteemed colleagues, the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center continues work. The topic of our next briefing, the official statement after the meeting with the President of Ukraine, the Prime Minister, the Speaker of Parliament, and the MPs, the France's position on French-Ukrainian relations, Minsk II agreement, and fight against terrorism. The floor is given to Madame Elisabeth Guigou, President of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the French National Assembly. You have the floor, ma'am. Good afternoon. I really would like to thank you for your attention to myself. Our meeting is not going to be too long because I'm going to catch the plane to Paris. I believe it was necessary to pay a visit here in order to thank Ukrainian people for their, let's say, the condolences and the sentiments of condolences where they expressed as associated with tragic events recently which took crucial place in Paris. During my meetings in the Verkhovna Rada, my colleagues MPs expressed the condolences in the embassy of French to Ukraine. Actually received the top echelon officials of Ukraine, so thank you very much again for that. This morning, actually, I had a chance to meet again with Pavlo Klimkin, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, whom I actually had a chance to meet several times in Paris over this year. And about 1 year back, we met in Kyiv when I came here with my German and Polish colleagues. Also, I had a pleasure to meet Prime Minister Yatsenyuk, and also had a working meeting with members of the Committee of Foreign Affairs Committee of the Verkhovna Rada of the Parliament of Ukraine. Also, I met my colleague, Madam Hanna Lopko, who is the chairperson of this committee. Well, actually, with the assistance of our embassy, I had a chance to communicate with the presenters of the Ukrainian analytical centers in order to actually have a feel on the sentiments which reign in the expert environment. And so on the occasion of those meetings, the message I convey to the people I talk to, that French remains shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine in order to help Ukraine to ensure to fight for its sovereignty and territorial integrity, including the Crimea. Actually, this support is going to continue in the future as well. We had a chance to demonstrate that in our turn we are prepared for some sacrifices. Just may I remind you when they refused to supply the French aircraft carriers Mistral to Russia. And this support actually is based on the fact that we actually admire the courage and the capability of the Ukrainian society to live through those complex and complicated conditions Ukraine finds itself in today, and the will to implement the much required reforms. With the people I talked today, first of all, we try to review the today's stage of implementation of the Minsk agreement, of the Minsk process, and number two, to analyze and the possibility to introduce the the reform which is much required by Ukraine today. So, from the point of view of France, as we visualize the situation from there, it seems to us that under very complicated conditions which we, we have today, after annexation of Crimea, after the tension which remains to be rather acute tension in the east of Ukraine, a possible way out of the situation and political process, we cannot visualize any kind of military alternative to this way, and also we can see any military alternative to the implementation of the Minsk agreements. We absolutely are aware and we do realize the difficulties associated with the Minsk process. Today we can see that the ceasefire, even if it's declared, in fact it's being violated, and there are some episodes when they failed to observe this, but under this difficult situation, if Ukraine will succeed in implementing a number of the reforms, and we are talking, by the way, the broad spectrum, decentralization, fighting corruption, judicial system, economic reforms, the more successful Ukraine is going to be in this specific area, the more possible ways out of the situation will be there for Ukraine. These are the conclusions we arrived together with my people I talked to this during this day. A very important remark which I would like to make at this point of time, and there's this situation with Syria actually occupies a lot of space in the political agenda of our top echelon of power of authorities, which is involved in a number of different negotiations. Perhaps you know that really takes a lot of efforts and time, but the situation in Syria and Iraq doesn't mean at all that we forget about Ukraine and the importance of the Ukrainian issue. Thank you, madam. So, esteemed colleagues, should you have any questions, please raise your hands, introduce yourself, and then put your questions. Yeah, I understand that one of the objectives of your visit was perhaps to some extent, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, just to calm down the Ukrainian authorities and the Ukrainian people, generally speaking. If you're talking about the situation which is developing now in France, is it true that during those meetings you were asked this question, specifically this question, and we can see the victims in Paris, but at the same time, there are casualties borne by Ukraine among the Ukrainian soldiers, and this sensitive item. Did you really? Did your Ukrainian counterparts touch upon this very sensitive issue during your meetings?
Européen. Bon. Les problèmes que nous avons ici, que nous rencontrons dans l'Est, et puis ceux au Sud. C'est moins du côté des politiques que du côté des responsables de la société civile qu'on a exprimé cette crainte. Est-ce que vous n'allez pas être absorbé complètement? J'ai dit que non. De toute façon, je veux dire, c'est pas parce que sur les deux sujets nous parlons avec la Russie, et il faut avoir un dialogue avec la Russie. C'est incontournable. La Russie est un acteur, mais ce n'est pas parce que nous parlons avec la Russie et sur le Moyen-Orient et sur l'Ukraine que nous mélangeons les deux sujets déjà. Hein, chacun a ses exigences propres et ce n'est pas parce que nous parlons avec la Russie que nous ne disons pas clairement quelle est notre position et quelles sont nos exigences aussi. Vous les connaissez très bien. Sur la Syrie, c'est que la Russie concentre ses frappes aériennes sur ISIS, hein, Daesh, comme on dit en France, et pas sur l'opposition modérée, et qu'il faut trouver le chemin d'un processus politique. Ce processus politique, il est admis dans son principe, puisque à la réunion de Vienne, à laquelle pour la première fois, le 14 novembre, tous les participants étaient autour de la table, y compris la Russie et l'Iran, mais aussi évidemment les Américains, les Européens, la Turquie, l'Arabie Saoudite, les pays du Golfe. Il est évidemment indispensable qu'on trouve le chemin vers ce processus politique. Et là, il y a des discussions et nous avons nos positions, la Russie a les siens, et c'est de ça dont il est question.
To a lesser extent, there's actually this kind of thoughts were expressed by the political figures, but actually there was some kind of those sentiments among those who were talked to. We also have to pay attention to both crises both in the Middle East and here in Ukraine, but it doesn't mean that we have to confuse those two topics or those two files. Out of the two, we have to admit that we continue our dialogue with Russia because we believe we have to do that. We try to find a common decision, but this does not prevent us in this dialogue to clearly outline and defend our own principles and requirements and demands. As for the Syrian situation, we clearly declared about that during the recent meeting in Vienna, where we're trying to find a political solution to this problem. And we clearly declared, actually, the line which we are going to cross. We are not going to cross. I'm talking about France, trying to resolve this problem. The question regarding the sanctions which have been introduced against the Russian Federation, did you advise the stance or the position of the French leadership regarding this issue? Can we expect some kind of the let's say decreasing the sanctions against Russia, or maybe this will be the situation when we are going to have more or less stable ceasefire regime? Maybe this would be some grounds for the above-mentioned step to be taken by the French government. I would like to tell you that France, as you know, actually shouldered the part of the price for those sanctions. You know, the situation with the helicopter carriers, Mistral, and not only Mistral but other equipment. Number two, in any case, we are not talking about the French but European decision taken, and we are going to take that decision together. And actually, what we mean to say that provided the provisions of the Minsk agreement, the memorandum are fulfilled, then we can entertain the issue, or to consider the issue, to lift some of the sanctions. Esteemed colleagues, unfortunately, I have to say goodbye to you, because I'm actually have a chance to be late for my flight. So thank you very much for your attention. Dear colleagues, this brings our working day to a close. We are going to resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you.